I'm glad you guys want to see content like this because I want to make content like this. I've been ranking all the fragrances I currently own from many houses that you guys know pretty well, and you guys seem to enjoy seeing that. So we're going to continue that today with the House of Creed. Now, as I've done in the past, I've done a YouTube short, which is just a minute long of me blitz ranking all the fragrances I have from a particular house. As you can imagine, that's not enough time to explain my reasoning, so this longer form video is intended to fill that gap. That being said, here is my one and only disclaimer. I don't own every Creed fragrance. I repeat, I don't own every Creed fragrance. And once more for those in the back.
I don't own every Creed fragrance.
I don't.
So if you don't see your favorite Creed fragrance in this video, I implore you to save your time and energy by not worrying, which will save the time and energy it will take to compose a comment asking me where your favorite Creed fragrance is and why it's not here. Please, by all means, share your favorite Creed fragrance in the comments, whether it's in this video or not. Let me know what you love, but please do not ask me why it's not here if it's not here. This ranking will mostly be intact in comparison to the YouTube short I did, except for I moved maybe 1 or 2 fragrances around and I added a couple spots. They're technicalities, but you'll see what I mean. So let's dive right into it. At the 14th spot, I like this fragrance. I especially love this DNA, but this version of it is not my favorite. This is Millesime Imperial. Now, this is an older batch. Now, there's something about Creed and older batch that when put together explode into a frenzy of people feeling like they need to go get it. And I'm here to tell you no, because a quote unquote vintage batch of a Creed fragrance is typically gonna cost way more than it's worth. So something like this 2013 batch of Millesime Imperial, I don't know the going rate for this on the resale market, but I imagine it's a pretty penny. I prefer the newer batches a little bit more. A lot of people seem to be worried about performance when it comes to newer, more recent batches of Creed's fragrances across the board, but I've seen from many of you guys in the comments, as I've asked you to report, you get just fine performance from your recent batches of many of the fragrances. So that doesn't mean you won't experience bad performance or what you consider bad performance with Creed's recent fragrances, but it just goes to show that performance is and always will be subjective. The quicker you can wrap your head around that and stop worrying about it so much, the more you will actually enjoy what you're spraying on your body, even if you might have to respray it several hours later. But more importantly than that, you should be sampling your fragrances first so that if it's completely irreconcilable, you can just leave it there and move on. But if you want to sample all the fragrances I will be talking about, you can check them out at the links in the description. I meant to say that earlier. This early batch of Millesime Imperial is quite potent. It is dense, thick, pretty powerful. I imagine maybe it's gotten stronger with time. It is known as this salty, fruity, musky, marine-like fragrance that is classy, a classy fresh scent. But here, because it's so much denser, it's actually a lot more powdery than I prefer. Thus, the slightly newer batches to more recent batches, I prefer more because they're just more airy. They're a little bit more watery, aquatic, transparent, more enjoyable for me. Yes, this is gonna last longer than newer batches, but the scent may not actually be better. Anyway, that's our 14th spot. That is Millesime Imperial, my 2013 batch. We have a similar situation here at the 13th spot for Creed Aventus. This is my 2016 bottle. 5-6 years ago, if I had all the Creed fragrances I have now and did this ranking, this would be in the top 3. And technically it is, but I'll explain later. Anyway, this particular batch, this 2016 bottle, has changed over the years, not for the better. It still smells good. It just smells flat. It doesn't have the same depth, which means it doesn't have the same brightness with those top notes, and it doesn't have the same richness with the base notes. It just has kind of shrunk and collapsed in on itself to become almost two-dimensional. So I don't enjoy wearing this as much as I used to. This is one of my most worn fragrances of all time, but I don't wear it anymore simply because it's not what it used to be, which is sad. It's just what happens when fragrances sit for a while, especially when they may not be bottled in the most high quality way. And let's be honest, even though Creed costs a pretty penny, some might say that the quality of their materials is a little questionable. Topic for another time. Anyway, that's Creed Aventus. It's good. We'll see it come up later and I'll explain more then. At the 12th spot, this was the 12th spot in my original YouTube short where I excluded the 2 fragrances I just mentioned. This is Royal Water. Royal Water is a special fragrance. It's one that may be slightly underrated, definitely under discussed, but I understand why a lot of people wouldn't be drawn to this. It is beautiful in its natural quality. There's a simplicity here. It is fresh citruses, basil, there's a watery feel, it's musky, very signature Creed, but simple. Not a whole lot of personality here, and it does smell a little bit vintage, a little bit old-fashioned in a way. It did come out in the 1990s. You get that vibe here. It smells 35 plus in a way, but nonetheless, it is very uplifting. It is very sophisticated smelling. It's something you could easily rock during the daytime on a hot day when you just want to be professional. So if you're looking for an off the beaten path Creed, that's pretty easy to wear. If you love it, then this is great. Otherwise, it may not move you. That's Royal Water. This is a fragrance I've had a waning and waxing affinity for throughout the years. Right now, I do like it quite a bit. I can see myself liking this more and more as I continue to reach for it during these upcoming summer months. This is Silver Mountain Water, total classic. Honestly, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of many across the fragrance community, a timeless masterpiece. There was really nothing quite like this fragrance before it came out, and it doesn't smell like it came out like 30 years ago. It came out in the 1990s. You would not be able to tell. It is utterly modern, cooling, alpine-like freshness with this tart, juicy fruitiness from black currant, some bergamot, some tea. Does have that inky metallic feel that people claim, but mainly up close in the air. Doesn't really give off that vibe all that much. There's something alluring about this fragrance, even though it's so fresh, it's so refreshing. My wife actually loves this DNA, and I've heard a lot of guys say the same thing about their respective significant others, especially when you don't overspray it, because when you do, it smells weird. Anyway, Silver Mountain Water. Another under discussed fragrance, but really no stranger. It's been on the market for some time. This is from the Aqua Original line. This is called Vetiver Geranium. This is a lovely scent, but it's pretty particular, and that's what I respect about it. It has a definitive face. It has a personality to it. It doesn't smell like every other Creed. Geranium is pretty heavy here, so you have to like geranium. It is a minty, lemony, kind of rosy, floral, fresh quality that can be a little bit powdery, can smell maybe a little old lady-ish, I've heard some people say. I get what you mean, mainly up close, yes, especially when it's heavy in the scent, it can give off that vibe, but overall, it's just kind of fresh and uplifting. This is mixed with apple, with cinnamon, with some grassy, fresh, woody vetiver, some cedar wood perhaps. There's a bright, crisp quality to it. There's a juicy, uplifting playfulness to it with this fruity sweetness, but ultimately it smells like a beautiful, sophisticated spring day vibe. Lovely stuff. Vetiver Geranium. At the 9th spot, we have our first reprise, and this is Millesime Imperial. This is my 2016 batch, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a little bit fresher, a little bit more transparent than the older batch that I have. I imagine that maybe even recent batches are a little bit more transparent than this. Can't tell you, haven't really tried the ones on the counter, but I've heard, again, a lot of you guys say that the current bottles that are available now are beautiful. They're great. They're worth trying, but at the very least, once again, go down to the description, get a sample of this fragrance and any other one that sounds interesting to you. I'm going to link DCANX down in the description. With the discount code STAYFRESH15, as usual, you can save 15% on your entire purchase. Nothing has changed. At the 8th spot, strangely similar to the fragrance we just talked about, this is Tabarome Millesime, another one that is a little bit under discussed. Definitely nowhere near as hyped as some of the others that you've heard about and maybe we'll see later. But to me, this does smell a little bit like Millesime Imperial. It does have this dusty, salty, aquatic freshness, maybe a little bit less on the aquatic feel. Definitely not fruity, maybe heavier on citruses like lemon or something like that. And has this dusty, dry tobacco feel that is very soft and supple, does not come across stuffy or overwhelming. It is overall a fresh tobacco, kind of a summery tobacco, if you will. Not remarkable, but really pleasant and pretty classy. That's Tabarome Millesime. At the 7th spot is an absolute classic. I really do like this. I don't wear it a ton these days, and I will tell you why here in a second. This is my older bottle of Creed Green Irish Tweed. I honestly cannot exactly remember what year this is, but you can tell by this bottle style, the 75 milliliter bottle, which they don't make anymore, that this is an older batch. I want to say 2015 at the latest. Maybe similar to Millesime Imperial, perhaps a little bit more dense than current batches, but in my opinion, this is still lovely. It's not too powdery for me. Even though it does have quite a bit of iris in it, it's still fresh and dewy and green, has that lemon verbena in it, has that signature Creed ambergris. The dry down of this fragrance is incredible. One of the best dry downs on the market, honestly, if you're asking me. It goes through this beautiful transition that smells different and adds this feeling of complexity, but still smells very related to where it came from at first spray. Just classy stuff. Timeless. Came out in the 1980s. You wouldn't be able to tell. The reason why I don't wear this fragrance a ton is because it reminds my wife of cool water. When I'm around her, which I am quite a bit, I don't really wear this because I don't want to just smell basic in that way. She likes it. It just reminds her of cool water. So I tend to save this for times when maybe I'll be away from her for some time. And at the very least, the dry down definitely has more of a special quality to her nose, just like it does to mine. That is Creed Green Irish Tweed. In my opinion, this is a little bit of an unsung hero. It's been around a while. It's no stranger, but it just doesn't get quite as much hype as some of the others. But again, no stranger. Original Santal. This is a 2015 batch. As you can see, I have these older batches. It just kind of turned out that way. I bought many of them secondhand and they tended to be just older. Gosh, this is so lovely. Has this raspberry-like sweetness, creamy sandalwood, vanilla, a little bit of sharp, fresh juniper berry, some tonka bean down there. Smells clean, almost laundry-like, but sweet and creamy and a little bit sharp. Just a bit of texture in there to give it some interest. And this particular batch I have is quite strong. I remember wearing this to the bank. I put on no more than 4 sprays, and within about 10 seconds of me walking in the front door, there was a gentleman sitting at least 50 feet away from me who said, "Your cologne smells amazing." So that thing traveled quickly. Can't speak for modern batches once again, so that's why I implore you to get a decant, which will most likely be of a slightly more modern batch, so you can get an idea of what is currently out there on the market before you just jump in and buy a full bottle. Original Santal. Let me know if you enjoy this one. This fragrance took a turn for the better. When I first smelled this, I was scratching my head. I was even turning my nose a little bit because I didn't understand how this fragrance could smell this unpleasant, but it just needed some time. This is Viking Cologne. When I first got this, I sprayed it and it reminded me of toilet bowl cleaner. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I didn't understand what the heck was going on. I was wondering if it was a real bottle of Viking Cologne or if I got duped or something, but no, it was the real thing. It just needed some time. It needed about 6 months to just sit unsprayed in the dark, and that did magic. This stuff opened up and now it smells like the way it was intended to. It does smell similar to the original Viking, has that classic masculine fougere quality, but it's a little bit more simple and more juvenile, but I mean that in the best way. It's slightly more mainstream smelling fougere fragrance that smells like it'll just cater to the younger guy, but still has a classiness to it. Bright citruses, some woods, some spices, herbs, clean and masculine, but not overly serious. Been loving it more, and my wife feels the same way because she felt the way I did at first about this. She hated it. There's videos to prove it from years back. You can go back and see her not liking this, but now when I wear it, she always enjoys it. So she's blown away just as much as I am about how maturation can really affect a fragrance, especially for Creed, for whatever reason. That is Viking Cologne. One of my absolute favorite simple fragrances that I've ever tried and that I currently own, Original Vetiver. This is a fragrance that I once had a bottle of. I got rid of it for whatever reason, and I had to get it back because I missed it. So I ended up buying this off of a friend, maybe sometime last year. One of the most pleasant, green, fresh, clean smelling fragrances you can buy. It does smell kind of like a bar soap in a way. Clean green soap, smooth, woody, but not overly woody and dry. Vetiver here, if it is here, it's very mild. Very much on the clean side of things. There's not much else I can say about it. Just easy to put on for a hot day, even just for like 4 or 5 hours. That's about all I get out of it, but that's all I need out of it. That is Original Vetiver. Love this stuff. We are into the top 3, and this is our final reprise of this video, and it's another fragrance that took a turn for the better. This is Creed Aventus. Once again, but this is my 2020 batch, the 10th anniversary edition, which I don't believe is available anymore. It's no different. It's just the special bottle, but it is its own batch. And you know, some people are still going to get a little bit crazy about batches because they feel like one is better than the other, especially when it's rare and you can't get it anymore. But I can assure you it's probably not much different from what you can get in current bottles today. But when I first got this fragrance, this was sent to me by Creed in 2020. I sprayed it. I was utterly disappointed. It was not even a shadow of what I remember from my 2016 bottle. It was just watery and light, Diet Aventus, so to speak. It was mostly citrus heavy. I wasn't getting that fruitiness I really loved out of the original. The depth was just missing, but it needed some time. Like Viking Cologne, sat in the dark at least 6 months to a year before I sprayed it again. And then I took a whiff and I'm like, this smells more like the Aventus I remember. So I had to rescind some comments that I've said about this. It impressed me. So I've slowly started to reapproach it since then. I'm not all in yet. I'm not here to say, oh, this is just like my original Creed Aventus experience. Not really, but it's kind of becoming that, so we'll see what time has to say about it. But for now, it's shooting back up to one of my favorites, obviously in the top 3. That is Creed Aventus, at least this batch. Number 2, Gentleman's Classic. A little polarizing because this is not going to appeal to every guy out there. This is Viking, the original Viking from 2017. I remember being so excited when this dropped. Creed was actually generous enough to send over a little sample that I did a very corny review of, but it's a sincere one. You can go back and check it out if you want to. I enjoyed it then. I enjoy it even more now. This is another fragrance that after that sample, I ended up getting a bottle. I sold it because I didn't think I needed it anymore. I missed it. I got it back. And now I'm holding on to it. This is minty, fresh, kind of fiery, spicy quality with that pink pepper, but also cooling with that mint. Definitely has a barbershop feel. Definitely has a little bit of an old school feel. People say it smells like Old Spice. I see what you mean, but this is refined. It doesn't smell like an old man to me. It just smells like a sophisticated gentleman. It smells like you have a more mature demeanor to you. It doesn't mean you have to be old to wear it. You just have to be a little bit more grounded, so to speak, or just want to have that vibe. I love the way it makes me feel. This is a solid 9 out of 10, maybe pushing 9.5. That's Viking. And some of you may have already seen this coming. This is a 10 out of 10 fragrance for me from the House of Creed. This is Royal Oud, one of the classiest, most unique oud fragrances that is not overly complex but still very definitive, that I think you can really try, and I do highly recommend you try a sample down below. Once again, this is a scent that had to grow on me. I first got a 10 ml decant of this years ago, couldn't stand it. Smelled like I was inside of a Christmas tree. But after spending a couple years away from that decant, I revisited it but started actually wearing it, not just spraying it up close and smelling it, because yes, it's going to smell really dry and stuffy. It's not going to be realistic of what you'll get in the air around you or what other people around you will smell when you wear it. You gotta try it in the air. Trust me. Dry, peppery cedar wood, not much oud here. This dusty green feel, a little bit of this natural, almost woody, tree-like, foresty sweetness. That's the best way I can describe it. It is ultimately a little bit of a fresh woody scent, but with depth and character, but again, not overly complex, but just enough personality to smell interesting, to smell different, to smell classy. I like to wear this on my gigs when it's not too warm outside, especially when there's a little bit of a breeze. Oh, it just works. So elegant. Creed Royal Oud. If you've tried any of the fragrances I mentioned, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts on them are. And once again, if you didn't see your favorite one here, let me know what it is. Let me know why you like it, and check out the description for links to try all these fragrances. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.